I'm Eugene MOPSIK, currently Executive Director of ASMP. I want to thank you all for being here today. Without asking Sylvie or notifying my panelists, I've kind of changed the name of our program today because as much as it will be about the terms of use, I also want to try to make it apparent to you the opportunities and ways in which social media can be used to your advantage and hopefully help build your businesses and build your brands. The format for today's discussion, I'm going to make some introductory comments, and then each of our panelists is going to have about 8 to 10 minutes to talk about their own particular area of expertise and interest. And then, given that we only have about an hour for the entire program, hopefully we'll have questions from the floor, and we'll open it up to that. And if not, then I'll prime the pump with my own questions. So let me do some introductions here. Peter Littger, who just walked in the door. Right on time. Wow. Perfect. So Peter is a partner in Prmium Media Content Consulting. He's a Berlin-based, London-based strategy consultant focused on payment models for premium content in text and visual. He used to be media editor of Die Zeit, co-founded German premium magazines such as Cicero, and held senior positions in the customized publishing industry. Peter is also a Spiegel online columnist. Thank you for being here. Severin MATUSEK at the end is VP of Community at EyeM. EyeM is what I would refer to as a user-friendly alternative to Instagram. Having joined the company early on, he's taking care of EyeM's community growth and happiness. It's a wonderful job to have. With a user base of several million photographers in more than 150 countries, EyeM is one of the fastest growing and engaged photography communities in the world. Prior to EyeM, Severin worked at Lomography, where he published several books on photography and was responsible for camera launches and some of the core communications behind the analog snapshot community. And lastly, closest to me, Professor Dr. Bernd NORDEMANN, attorney at law, certified copyright and media lawyer, certified IP lawyer, admitted at the European Trademark Office, studied law at the universities of Berlin, Gothenburg, and Cambridge. In 1997, he joined Baumert & Baumert, where he works as an attorney at law. In copyright law, Professor NORDEMANN advises film companies nationally and internationally, as well as German and foreign map, book, stage, newspaper, and magazine publishers. His copyright expertise further includes the areas of photography, design, and architecture. And is it J-U-V-E? Is it J-U-V-E or is it Juve?
No, it's Juve, if
Juve.
you pronounce it
so
German.
the Juve Manual 2013-2014 again describes NORDEMANN as one of Germany's leading copyright lawyers. Legal 500 Deutschland describes him as a copyright lawyer of especially high standing. Best Lawyers International voted him among top practitioners in the fields of entertainment, IP, and media. In 2007, he was appointed honorary professor at the Humboldt University of Berlin, and since 2013, he has been named legal director of the Erich Pommer Institute for Media Law, Media Economy, and Media Research. And again, I'm Eugene MOPSIK, executive director of ASMP. I'm a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania in lovely Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I've worked as an advocate for photographers for the last 12 years. For 32 years prior to that, I was a working publication photographer, primarily shooting heavy equipment, things like trucks, forklift trucks, and assembly line tools. So it's been an interesting time. This whole issue of social media terms of use in part came up through discussions that we had with a gentleman named Peter Krogh. Some of you may know Peter as the author of the DAM book. He's an expert on digital asset management and frequent speaker around the world. He identified the major issues having to do with these terms of use some months ago, and we mounted a coalition that included participation from CEPIC and PACA and a number of other photo associations around the world to try to address our concerns directly to Instagram. And while Instagram was our immediate target, by and large, most of the social media platforms have very similar terms of use, and the grant of license that you give to them is very similar in most cases. And let me also start out by saying we have no intention of shutting down Instagram or any other social media platform. In fact, we, on many levels, encourage the use of those platforms. I think our goal is to try to affect some small change within those terms of use, and basically to make you all better informed in the choices that you make in using these platforms. So as this group certainly knows, photos have never been more important. They drive engagement on many levels, and social media is a way to keep in touch. It's a peer-to-peer network, a publishing model, and involves uses of new media. It's pervasive today, so you can't quite tell what this is, but as we go along, you'll have a better idea. So this is on a package of Honey Bunches of Oats, which is a cereal, I think, made by General Foods or General Mills in the US. And you can see that, they've been securing smiles and likes from people. They've got Facebook right on the back of their cereal box. And they've got all of these testimonials, again, that came from social media. So it's everywhere. Instagram, this is the trade-off. You're trading rights for reach. So there are certain things that you give up once you decide to participate. And I have to say, as probably one of 10 people in the world who I think has read the entire Instagram terms of use, I can't imagine that any of you have tried to struggle through them. If you do, what you find is, as you go through what you would think are the basic terms, there are then hot links to, well, they will refer to something like their privacy policy. So you may be a few pages into the basic terms of use, and then you'll talk about something being predicated on their privacy policy, and you then link on that, and that then takes you to another 10 to 20 page document that you've got to wade through, and then you have to go back to the basic terms of use, and then if you are a partner with them, there's a whole nother level of terms and conditions. So the bottom line is, it's extraordinarily complicated, and I'm not a lawyer. I pretend to be a lawyer frequently, but I'm not, and it's very, very complicated. I think the professor will agree with me. So these are some of the things that you acknowledge or you give up when you join Instagram. The right to sublicense. The content is perpetual. If you decide to not participate in Instagram, they make it clear that while your content may not be available directly from your account, it will be available from other people's accounts. Again, your name and data belong to Instagram. You give a full indemnification to them. So you make an affirmation that you have the rights to the image, and that basically any trademarks or other issues, other release issues, are all secured by you. And again, I think Professor Nordemann would agree. It turns out that trademark issues, at least in the United States, don't arise from the taking of an image. They arise from the use of an image. And so it seems foolish to me that anyone would agree to indemnify someone for uses of an image over which they have no control. And it's a meaningless affirmation to me that you would say that you're holding them harmless against these uses when you don't know whether or not their use might violate a trademark that appears within the photograph. But meanwhile, people agree to this. The service can evolve. They clearly say that they have the right to change the service at any point, and you have to agree to the terms of use if you want to continue. It's a pretty one-sided deal. These are the actual words in the agreement. You hereby grant to Instagram a non-exclusive, fully paid and royalty-free, transferable, sub-licensable, worldwide license to use the content that you post on or through the service, subject to the service privacy policy. So that's another, again, there are all of these layers of policy. Goes on, if we terminate your access to the service or you use the form detailed above to deactivate your account, your photos, comments, likes, friendships, and all other data will no longer be accessible through your account, but those materials and data may persist and appear within the service. So the bottom line is, once you're in, you're in. All right? These are some of the connections that people who are working with Instagram, National Geographic, New York Times, U.S. government, big-name photographers, various brands, television networks. Now, meanwhile, a number of issues are what, I guess in legal terms, we refer to as unsettled. In other words, there haven't been, again, and this is in the U.S., there haven't been court cases to test whether or not these actual claims and rights that they're accessing are in fact either grantable or legal. So the extent of the indemnification, the extent of sub-licensability. So do they in fact really have the right to make third-party use? Whether or not there's violation of privacy rights, whether or not there are rights related to minors. And again, the termination right, the fact that you cannot, once you put your material up there, you can't get rid of it. In the near future, and I was talking to Severin about this beforehand, while right now much of social media is accessed through your phone, in the very near future, and in some cases now, this is going to be another means by which you will be able to upload directly so higher quality images will be created. You'll have the ability from within your camera of choice to actually communicate directly with social media platforms. And I think that will cause the use of these various image platforms to explode. This is just a little comparison of some of the most prominent social media sites. It gives you an idea of their scope and number of users and number of images. It's really mind-boggling. The numbers are extraordinary. These are some basic tips, very simple. Watermark your images if possible. Publish the image on your own site and link. I think Kathy Aaron or someone mentioned this yesterday in the session on social media about not actually posting the images to the media sites, but posting a link, having the image hosted on your server. And when the image is hosted on your server and not on the social media site, it's my understanding that the grant of rights is significantly more limited. And this also is one of the reasons for hosting your own blog. Don't publish the crown jewels. In other words, if you have images that are of extremely high value and you don't want them shared by the world, then be smart. Put other images up there that may lead people back to where your higher value content is, but where you have better control over it. use of social media must be part of a larger strategy. It's not, you know, I see photographers who use social media, you know, like this is what I had for lunch today. It's a beautiful morning. Boy, oh boy, I just had a great time, you know. It can't just be willy-nilly, you know, things that off the top of your head. You've got to incorporate social media into a marketing plan, into a brand building plan, and to make it really effective. And finally, to understand how the publishing industry has changed. It's a new world. The ease at which people can publish both extended content and smaller snippets of content has never been easier. And I think that's really where the publishing world is headed. This is just some contact information for the various participants. And the last one is a link to what's called the Instagram papers, which was an analysis, a much more in-depth and technical analysis of Instagram that was conducted by Peter Krogh in concert with legal advice that we had. So if you want to check that out, it's asmp.org/Instagram. And again, there's everyone else's contact information if you can read it. And I'm now going to ask Dr. Nordemann to come up and say his words. Thank you.
All right, so let's start with some legal comments from my part. After Gene, I think, has set the landscape very, very nicely and also very correctly. You will see in my little talk here that I come for most of the scenarios to the same conclusions as Gene here, because probably the issue is not so much a legal issue, as you will see, but rather how to treat this in your daily practice, because there's not much help you can get from lawyers. But you will see that in a minute. I wanted to start off with what Gene has already mentioned in his little presentation. There's a lot of opportunities in social media for photographers. If you have that quote here from somebody photographer who used Instagram, he said, "Instagram has certainly helped accelerate my career. It gave me exposure, and that's what you really want." The problem is, however, and you know, lawyers always address problems, but I will try to give you some solutions in the end. The problem really with social media is that they may take away more rights from you than you want to be taken away. For example, as you probably all know, Instagram caused this uproar in 2012 when they introduced general terms and conditions that granted to Instagram the advertising rights in the photos. And as I understood these conditions, that was also meant to cover third-party advertising and not only advertising by Instagram itself. So there you see that obviously would have been kind of a big and also commercially very relevant rights grant to Instagram. They canceled that later, probably because of the uproar. But if you look at Instagram's general terms and conditions, you really have to ask yourself, is it any better now? At least you wouldn't find any longer any specific reference or any specific grant for advertising rights for third parties, but still the language remains very, very general. And also the general grant refers to other sub-documents. It's very difficult to read. and probably for non-lawyer, it's also difficult to understand. From the advertising side, for example, number 2 of the rights general terms and conditions gives Instagram the right to at least place advertisements next to your photo. Yeah, they haven't done that yet, but at least they have the right to do so, and that may already, you know, be the first step to commercially exploiting your photo and to monetize it. So there you see, you have to be cautious what photos you upload to such services. If you go to Facebook, for example, the rights grant is not really clearer. It's more or less the same language. Also, Facebook's general terms and conditions contains a non-exclusive, transferable, sub-licensable, yeah? To who do they want to sub-license it? That's the question. Royalty-free worldwide license to use any IP content that you post on or in connection with Facebook. And that's called the IP license, for example. In contrast to Instagram, this IP license with Facebook ends when you delete your IP content, yeah, or your account with Facebook, unless your content has been shared with others, obviously. So there's a little difference here between Facebook and Instagram. Facebook, if you delete the content from Facebook, that's when the license ends. As Eugene has pointed out correctly, with Instagram, that's different. Yeah, they keep the rights perpetually. There's also some further general terms and conditions on Facebook for using your content, your picture, for example, for means of advertising, for Facebook in particular. I won't go into details here, but again, here you see these services always get at least the right to use your photo for own advertising purposes. Flickr, for example, another social media service, is kind of interesting as well. That's in German here, but I think, I hope you can all read German, otherwise I will explain what it means. Flickr is a Yahoo service, and in the Flickr general terms and conditions, you give not only the rights to Flickr, but to, as I understand at least the terms and conditions, to any Yahoo service there is. Yeah? And that, so there you see that this also goes pretty far. So if you ask me as a lawyer, what can we do about it? Doesn't the law maybe help me as the weaker part of, you know, as the weaker part of the two contractual parties? In general, I have to tell you no. There's not much to be expected from law, not much legal help to be expected. For example, German law, there's been a recent German Federal Supreme Court decision called Honorarbedingungen freie Journalisten, which means translated remuneration conditions for free journalists. The German Federal Supreme Court said, in general, we do not use the specific law on general terms and conditions in order to regulate rights grants. Rights grants are out of the scope of application of the German law on general terms and conditions in general. So, you know, the only small aspect there is in order to control too extensive rights grants would be if surprising grants are included in the general terms and conditions. So, for example, if Facebook included a right in its terms and conditions to use your photos for a printed magazine. Yeah, that I think that would definitely be a surprising grant. But you already see that this is probably an exception and doesn't really help you in practice. The other thing that can also help you, but national laws are very different. German law is pretty strict on transparency of general terms and conditions. So if you have an intransparent condition, they may be void because they are too intransparent. And if you look back here, for example, at such conditions, probably they are too difficult to understand. For example, if here Instagram's general terms and conditions that refer to other sub-documents is kind of, a hard nut to crack. And I would say at least there, maybe you can get an argument from missing transparency, which would also be a reason, at least under German law, to find that rights grants are void. But such a regulation, a legal regulation, does not exist in every jurisdiction, I'm afraid. So that's why I come back to Gene's proposals, also from my legal point of view, is be cautious, at least a bit. Maybe you read the terms and conditions before you upload stuff, before you upload pictures to social media platforms, and maybe you also choose the platform you upload to according to what general terms and conditions they offer. Yeah, there's also a competition in general terms and conditions, and maybe we'll hear something more from Severin later on that there are also good guys out there that make the rights grants very transparent. Also upload selectively, I think that's also something I can recommend very much from my legal perspective. Also use linking to your own website, because linking is from a copyright perspective, is irrelevant. So if you only post a link on social media platforms as Facebook, they cannot get any rights in the content, because they would just acquire rights in a link. And as you see, that's probably not worth much. So if you don't post the photo on the site itself, on the social media site itself, but on your own website or on another secure website that you control, that's probably a much better idea. And one last recommendation, which is not on the slides here, but which Gene already mentioned, I would also propose, if you have the resources to do it, watermark your photos that you upload, because they are exposed to the general public. They may be stolen, yeah, and if you want to trace them, you have a much easier time if you've watermarked it. That's also my experience as a lawyer. We have some photographers we represent that do watermarking, and they find practically every infringement that is out there on the internet. So that's a very good tool, to kind of maybe get a little counterbalance to your big exposure you get through social media and the dangers that are out there using social media. That's all for the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Cool. So thanks for your attention. Yeah, I'm Severin. I'm not looking for a new job. I'm talking about my current job with EyeM. So I'll be briefly talking about like hands-on experience of what we've heard here before in theory, basically. I'm working since more than 10 years with photography, social media, online communities. So I have a little bit of experience with these subjects. And I work at EyeM, mobile photography community and marketplace. We're based here in Berlin. And I'm talking about like our experience with photographers' rights and how we handle that subject. So we've heard a lot about Instagram and Instagram terms of service. And my point to that is that photographers aren't stupid and people aren't stupid. So that's why there was a huge uproar when Instagram changed the terms of service, because people understood what it means to them. People understood that they're losing control of the images and they're losing control of the rights. What we did 2 weeks basically after Instagram announced that, we made an announcement on our blog to our community that was called Our Promise to You. We basically told people, we're not doing that. We're not taking away your image rights. We're not doing anything with your photography without your consent. And if you delete your account on EyeM, all your data and all your photos are deleted forever, and we don't do anything with your data. What happened then was basically that we had hundreds of thousands of downloads in a day, and that's for weeks and weeks going on, because people understood what it means, because people understood we're not taking away their rights, and it means something to people. In the end, I think the magic word is attribution. So everyone wants attribution for their photos. Everyone wants, if someone uses an image, wants to have the credit next to the image. So what we do, for example, is on the left side you see a very recent project that we did with the German magazine Der Spiegel. We send our users on a mission to photograph cucumbers all around the world, or all around Europe. You see some of these photos in there, and basically we ask people to do that within 24 hours, to take a photo of a cucumber in front of a landmark in Madrid, in Berlin, in Rome, and so on. People do it, but of course the name is credited properly. It's not saying this is only EyeM. It's not saying it's some user's contribution, but it's saying the user's name. So people receive the issue of Der Spiegel, they see their name, and they're incredibly proud. It's attribution. It means their work is properly credited. When we highlight photos on social media, of course we credit the people. Of course we tell who took this photograph, and always like link back to the people, so they actually learn, they actually get reach through our reach when we use their photos. In the end, I think it's all about education. So changing your terms of service because you want to use someone's data or someone's photos is of course very much easier than educating people actually what that means. And I want to go back a little bit to the reason why people or other services actually do that. Why do people change their terms of service so they can use people's data and they can use people's photos? It's all about making money with that in the end. We have these huge social networks with hundreds of thousands and millions of people that don't really monetize yet. So everyone understands that the money is in the data and the money is in the photos. And we haven't really seen big examples of how Instagram, for example, uses people's photos to advertise third parties or so on. Maybe it will come in the future. But of course, it's about making money with that thing through advertising. What we believe in is not making money through advertising or giving photos to third parties or brands. We believe in sharing the stuff with our community. So what we are working on is something called EyeM Market. We're currently in beta. And it's about enabling a new generation of photographers to enter the commercial image market. Basically, educating them about licensing, about image rights, about image releases, everything that you need in order to sell an image commercially and editorially as well. And splitting the revenue each image makes 50%, 50-50 with the person. So we haven't launched this yet, but we already see great outcomes. But we already, one of the challenges that we're facing here is that to educate a completely new generation of people that probably started taking photos with their phone and have never sold an image before, have never heard about image rights before, don't know much about copyright, educating them about their rights, and in order that they can actually enter the commercial image world and start selling their images together with us. To sum up, I want to give a little bit of a perspective of how photography is changing, in my opinion. Because we've heard a lot about copyright, of protecting your images, of reading terms of service very cleverly. And I'm not making any judgment on that. I think it's great. But at the same time, what I'm witnessing every day on our service and other services is that the way people use photography is changing tremendously, and also the way people treat copyright. So if we look at protecting our images from different platforms or from social media, I would like to point out that there are photographers out there who start making a living because they are sharing on social media. There are people who have created an incredible brand of their photography, an incredible following of hundreds of thousands of people online because they do share images every day. And these are not like the old school photographers who produce in a very traditional way, but these are people who shoot hundreds of images every day and have no problem sharing them. Maybe their images could be stolen, maybe the copyright is violated, but they're actually starting to make money, and they're getting money from brands and from people because they have this reach on social media. So I just want to make this point that photography and images are changing, and there's like 1.8 billion photos being shared every day. What's happening to that? So I think the landscape is changing, and also how people will make money with photography is changing, and just want to throw this in as a term of discussion, and happy to discuss it later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Severin. I think those are all points well taken about it really is a new kind of thinking to understand the ways in which you're monetizing images, and at least for photographers, a lot of the traditional markets aren't really working any longer, and I think these new markets are where things are headed. Peter Littger will now speak, I think, again, talking about some new markets and the marketplace.
Hello, good morning again. I'm a little bit offhand, first of all, and a little bit off topic indeed, because I would like to talk about the value of photography as part of media, and in particular current affairs and journalistic business models. I couldn't agree more in terms of what the legal situation is like. It's pretty anarchic, and it is perhaps not lawless because it's down to the law of a feudal order, I sometimes tend to think, where you are definitely not the sovereign, the king who receives the exploitation from the fief. So in other words, try to be a king, try to be the one on top of the pyramid, and it's really anarchic, or it's really an old order that we thought we would have overcome sometime around 1789. But the point here, I think, is that there is hope and there is perspective to the extent that I would like to begin my presentation. Where is it?
This gentleman will find it for you.
Okay. I mean, I really couldn't agree more. The point is that I really enjoy some of the tweet accounts. Like Earthpics, I'm sure you know that 1.8 million followers. TV Secrets is one of the big new sort of up-and-coming picture tweets, and there are many who do entertain me, but I have to be honest here. I probably wouldn't be willing to pay any money for what I receive on these tweets, and that is one thing that is part of the premium media, premium content formula that is very simple, but always important to mention that you need to be compellingly useful and compellingly entertaining, both sort of ends of the spectrum, to be successful in the business market in particular. And this is something we must stress in our markets in Europe, where we have a very saturated public service media landscape. So in essence, everyone in this country, in the UK and in Switzerland and what have you, pays around 30 euros a year for decent content. And we all know that public service broadcasters disseminate not just television programs and radio programs. They do a lot of text, and it comes to the sort of absurd. It comes to some forms of absurd. Also, I would say usurpation of what the public service media law is, that journalists from Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung contribute text to Deutschlandradio from their desk. Anyway. So I think in a saturated public service media landscape, it is not very easy to make money in first place with content, and so you need to be compellingly entertaining and compellingly useful, perhaps and possibly and preferably at the same time, but perhaps not, and then you can still be successful. You need to ask yourself, and this is really what I put to you as photographers or representatives of photography organizations and businesses. you need to ask yourself, are we producing capital good here, or are we producing consumer good? And this is what we would distinguish in German also as consumer good or capital good. I don't know what to say in German. It's Betriebsgut. What's that? Also it's kein Kapitalgut, yeah, just for the Germans, but it means ein Investitionsgut. That's what I wanted to say. You don't say investitive good in English, but it's Investitionsgut, meaning it's basically a B2B product versus a B2C product. So who wants to buy our product is another question you need to put to yourself, as opposed to who wants to just share and who wants to just look and enjoy. At the same time, it isn't 100% equivalent with entertaining and useful, because it can be very entertaining and people still want to pay for it. So these are different questions. So is it B2B what we offer as photographers or photography organizations? Is it B2C? I always explain myself this difference in terms of VAT. Do people pay VAT on the product and it's B2B and the capital good, or do they pay and do they not pay VAT? Can they claim it back, or do they pay eventually VAT? Then it's a B2C consumer product. So where does photography stand in this context? This is a photograph which I do not just like aesthetically, but I think it's a remarkable photograph because it serves both ideas of being compellingly entertaining. It's one of the has become a landmark photography of the Queen, of course, and was taken by a professional photographer who got commissioned by the royal household. It wasn't intended that she would be taken with eyes closed, but it just so happened, and she did commission this picture, and I'm sure you have seen it, and so it became a piece of art. And this is my point here, that you can think about producing and offering consumer products as a mass product, or you can become a premium product of a very sort of tiny scale and enter the art market. And this is something that other forms of expression do very much envy photographers of, because it's very difficult to produce a piece of art that is eventually like Chris Levine's Lightness of Being, around £10,000 at the moment, depending on the edition. You can't really produce a piece of art as a text expressionist. You can't. It's very difficult to produce a limited sort of premium product with sound. It's more often. I mean, you have sound installations in the art world, but it's very often a mass product as a pop music song or what have you. And with data, which is the fourth and up and coming most important form of expression in the content world, you can't also it's very difficult to produce piece of art. So image stands out and there is a sort of an exit here when it comes to how can we earn money. The art market is certainly a solution, but not for everyone. So the consumer product solution sounds more feasible, I think, to sort of larger extent. And this is the perfect consumer product, of course, the iPod and a lot of similar products. I'm not an Apple advocate, I'm just using Apple. And here we have it opposed to something that I always think is very nice, but sort of brain construct, because a newspaper in a stadium, the FAZ, who regularly does this sort of nice kind of commercial product, shows that very clearly the difference. A newspaper is not a consumer product in every situation. It's text, and this is what I want to tell you here, is also not a consumer product to the extent that music is a consumer product. You want to listen to a music file again and again if it's a good music file, and it can be also part of your life identity because it reminds you of certain situations, a Beatles song or something, some other tune. A text is something very different. If you have understood a text, you won't read it again. If somebody else has grasped the text, he would tell you what the text is about. You will not read it. So hence the likelihood or your inclination to buy money, to buy text and give money for text is much smaller than for a music file. Photography, on the other hand, can be, when it's a piece of art, something you want to buy. And photography has the big advantage in comparison to text that it is normally not dismantled as an entity. A photograph stays a photograph. if you don't start to Photoshop the photograph will stay as an entity. A text will never stay an entity. We can easily dismantle the text, take out a quote, or just forget about it the next day. So here, this is just for the fun of it. Text, very often, classic, so traditional journalism in text style is not a consumer product, but in combination with photography, it can become a package, a bundle that produces a consumer product. The problem, though, and you know this, is that the camera is omnipresent. So the problem now is that the means of production for photography have become, so everywhere, so sort of everyone can do it. That there is a problem, certainly. So it depends. So to be able to produce a worthwhile photography, you need to have special access. As a particular timeliness to your picture and a particular quality. Here, I want to show you very quickly what on a practical level, what we also did develop as a consultancy firm, the combination between text, no consumer product, with photography, and the result, the package that will create a consumer product which people really want to buy. For example, the iPad solution for NRC Reader, and it's called NRC Reader for NRC Publishing Group in the Netherlands, where clearly this only works, and it's very successful. It's an iPad app that has already has reached break even, and they have sold within a year more than 15,000 app connections. Here we have a clear combination between text and photography that can be very beautiful, but also extremely newsy at the same time. This is just to illustrate the combination. Sometimes very newsy pictures, current affairs pictures, sometimes arty pictures. On every day they present a new package of photography plus text. And this only works together, and it wouldn't work without the photography. So this is a piece of example to give you hope that yes, photography can be exploited in the news market. And the photographers there are attributed well. I mean, do you see the name, who's taking the pictures, and they get a decent amount. It's not just user-generated content, and they don't always, and not very often, actually use agency stuff. So there's another one I'm sure you have heard of. Scoopshot is one of the many user-generated content producers, and they're a client of ours. And what impresses me very much here is that although it's user-generated content and sometimes very scruffy and also certainly in many cases useless photography, it can produce highlights where people are at the right spot in the right time. And for example, here this is one of their cooperations with Westdeutsche Allgemeine Zeitung, when they had called for a task called the most annoying potholes in the Ruhr area. They received almost 600 pictures within 12 hours, something that photographers cannot, star photographers cannot deliver. And these people got more money than they would usually get for my beloved cat or something like that. These pictures were paid by the newspaper at a much higher scale because one of the freelance photographers started to demand more. So you could tell, and there was a moment where suddenly the newspaper realized, okay, we get a good result here, and we really want to use it. And here the people start because they don't sell the full rights of the high resolution pictures to Scoopshot. They just sell low res. This is something I would advise Scoopshot to change, but they have different reasons for doing it, because they offer different services also to professional photographers. In any case, the general public who participated in this contest, one of them started to claim more money, and they got more money. And so it was a good case to show that the right picture, the right moment is worthwhile even for a newspaper that is ailing. What I find very important is to show that images are the most important part of the formula when you want to sell products. And there's another example, the third one I want to give you. from Germany, from Berlin. Freunde von Freunden is an intriguing website, and they have a new app now out where they portray people in their flats around the world. So basically, one could say this is very irreverent and very, I mean, doesn't interest me. Why would I look at this? But it's lifestyle, and it combines the way people work, people who are, for example, the famous collector Boros in his famous flat. You know, it's a sort of Barcelona bungalow-style flat on top of a bunker. And the portrait of his collection and his flat is, of course, not just you know, a personal portrait, but it also shows his objects and his favorable pieces of art and so on. And they combine it with the possibility, for example, to sell products. So this wouldn't be possible without photography. And in this triangle, property, objects, and imagery comes together as a business model very successfully. Here is the sound dimension to it, because Freunde von Freunden offers soundtracks, hour-long soundtracks on Last.fm, I think, no, on the, what's it called, SoundCloud. And they also have a cooperation running with Die Zeit, where they do publish their portraits. And I'm telling you this because without photography, this whole business model wouldn't work. So there is hope that photography is essential to future business models in the premium content and in the current affairs content world. However, I couldn't agree more, and can only reiterate what you gave out as your tips. I mean, be careful and try to be a king. Think of the feudal pyramid and try to be on top of it. Say, I want to be the last person to be asked about this photographic asset, and I don't just want to you know, give it away for free. So try to be different and think of perhaps those three aspects when I mentioned that earlier: access, timeliness, and quality. This is the formula that you need to always bear in mind as a photographer. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thank you, Peter. Right, so where is this mic working? Yeah, this mic's working. So we are basically we've used our hour. At the same time, I think we have a few minutes at least before 1 o'clock, and I know we're standing between you and lunch. But what I'd like to do is open the floor to questions, and hopefully we've stimulated you enough to have some questions. And if not, then I will ask them. But if we have some questions for the panel, let's do it. There we go. Yes, sir.
Is there any evidence of monetization going on amongst any of the social media platforms?
It's a good point. So, I mean, are you asking, are they in fact making this third-party use?
Yeah, happening already?
I think in limited cases they are, but and then I'll let my panelists speak. I don't believe. I mean, one of the things I was going to ask is that threat of, or that grant of third-party rights, really kind of an empty shell, because they may or may not be doing it. To my understanding, it hasn't happened to a great degree yet, but they have the right. And I think it opens the door to any number of schemes. I don't know if anyone feels differently.
In terms of content marketing, the buzzword of the commercial area, they do it a lot at the moment. They sell a lot to brands who want to be associated. I mean, works different in every case, but yes, content marketing is certainly the way forward.
Yeah. Yeah, there was another hand back there. Yes.
I have a question for Severin regarding the use of the crowdsourced images in the Spiegel magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Do the users get paid for the images shown?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the range?
I can't disclose that, but it's a good amount of money. It depends, like, always on the deal, like what a newspaper, for example, pays us. We always like try to have at least like a 50-50 split, and but I can't disclose any numbers because it's still like a pilot project and it's not officially launched. We're still like working on it. But yes, people get assigned missions, and if their photo is printed, they do get money and attribution for it.
Yeah, Severin raised that question of attribution before, and I can say that in discussions that I've had with folks at Instagram. I was recently told that both Instagram and Facebook are in the process of instituting guidelines that would enable attribution, or at least would leave the attribution information in an image file when it's uploaded rather than the summary stripping of that data, and that issue was now under legal review at Facebook and Instagram, but that hopefully an announcement would be coming shortly that would indicate that they are going to maintain that attribution information, which I think would be a positive step forward. We have more questions? All right. Let me see where I guess what I had a similar question to one asked from the floor about monetization, but from the other side, not whether the social media companies are monetizing, but creative ways for photographers to monetize using these social media outlets. And one of the things that I became aware of is that, you know, there are some photographers who have enormous followings in the tens or hundreds of thousands of people looking at what they're doing, and those eyeballs, those looks, are now a saleable commodity, and that they can be compensated by commercial entities for either linking their content with that of the entity or in connecting them with their viewer base. And this can be a significant stream, and albeit not one that's directly attributable to the images, but wouldn't exist if it weren't for the posting and the images. I don't know if other people have experience.
Yeah, I mean, I can just like give a few examples. Like one of the most prominent use cases that photographers with a tremendous following on social media get often sent, for example, by tourism boards to countries like Turkey or other countries, where basically the tourism boards pay them to go on a trip, share photos on a daily basis, and show their experiences. So of course, on one side, it's about kind of like leveraging their following, because they reach many more people through someone with, let's say, 500,000 followers on social media than they would through traditional advertising. At the same time, I think it's a new way of communication that that shows like this live experience in a country, which is something you couldn't like have in a traditional advertising or in a TV advertising and so on. So this is a very prominent use case of what we see right now, of how actually this new generation of photographers, as I'd like to call them, are making money with their photography.
May I just step in, because there's a legal issue about this that I would like to raise, because if you get paid to create content, there are some jurisdictions that require you to be transparent on that. For example, the German jurisdiction would require you to put something, a sign like this, you know, this is paid content paid by this and this, in order to differentiate it from purely editorial content. So at least you should watch out. I mean, a nice way to monetize it, definitely, but you should, you know, watch out for these kind of legal issues.
And you don't own it as a photographer. If you're being paid for it, you don't own it. It's not your content anymore, or you can have
well, that depends on that depends on your contract. I mean, if you are on top of the feudal hierarchy and you know those people desperately want you, I think you're probably in a position to negotiate that the rights remain with you, and that they only get non-exclusive rights, for example, in the photos or so. But yeah, if worse comes to worse, you're not even owning the rights.
But about that, hi, my name is Andreas Gebhardt. I work for Getty Images, but this question is really more as a user of social media. So what you're saying is, you know, in certain jurisdictions, you might have to signify that this is paid content in the stream of other images that I share. But I am not necessarily, as a photographer who is otherwise sharing images of my food, my dog, my travels through the world, you know, does that qualify as editorial? Is that up to me, the photographer who is getting paid, who now has to say, this here is a paid picture? Or is it up to the platform, perhaps EyeM or Instagram or whoever it is, to somehow signify that? Because frankly, it feels to me that this is a deal between the tourism board and myself and my personal followers, be they in the tens or hundreds or thousands of people. So why should I have to do that?
I would ask the professor, is the issue that you're being compensated to create the image or that you're being compensated for the use within social media?
No, I think you're being compensated because you publish these photos to your followers. I think that's the issue about it, and that's a commercial activity, and that's in general, strictly legally speaking, that's caught by the Directive on Unfair Commercial Practices, which is an EU-wide legal instrument, and one of the issues covered there is that it would be unfair competition in that respect between photographers if you publish something that you have been paid for, not making that transparent. And your other question, typical lawyer answer, it depends. Who is responsible of making it transparent? If you are the one that controls the content, so if you use the platform merely to publish it, but it's just a technical kind of infrastructure you're using, it would be your obligation to do it. If it's own content of the platform, then it would probably be the platform that would have to do it. Usually social media platforms like Facebook also are just regarded as the technical infrastructure, so it's the one that uses the platform who has to be transparent and put up the commercial content also.
So to put it pointedly, what you're saying is the EU is putting me as a EU citizen at a commercial disadvantage versus me as a US citizen or some other citizen in the world where it's, a little bit of loose thing where I could make new money in this new world, but not so much if I live here.
That is correct. I think the European regulation here is much stricter than in the US, because in the US nobody really cares about unfair competition. Really, I mean,
yeah.
You have one great excuse because 144 characters in your tweet are not enough for the credit to the Turkish Tourism Board.
Yeah. Listen, before we adjourn, I want to do one thing. Since my slide acknowledging people's contact information was a failure when we had so much room light here, if you're interested, so Peter Littger, Peter's email address is Littger, Littger, at premiummedia.cc. So Littger at premiummedia.cc. Severin MATUSEK can be reached at Severin, Severin, at EYEM.com. Severin at EyeM.com. Professor Nordmann is J.Nordemann at boehmert.de, boehmert.de. So J. Nordemann at boehmert.de. And I'm MOPSIK, MOPSIK, at MOPSIK Photo, MOPSIKPHOTO.com. Remember me when you think jobs now.